Okay, so I'm here to talk about Bzzt as an example of a startup with global ambitions. My name is Örjan Jansson, and I am a co-founder of the company and also R&D director, where I try to look a long way into the future and see what type of services and what type of business and what type of technology should we have to be very relevant at all times. So how many of you have heard about Bzzt before coming here today? Yes, a few. How many have traveled with Bzzt? Okay, good. Yeah, there is a few. And you can are free to ask questions during my presentation as well here. So I learned right now that you should always start with a problem. So what type of problem do we try to solve? Well, in the cities, there are a lot of problems with congestion. There's too much traffic. There's too many cars on the streets, basically. And also there's a problem with emissions and pollution, also coming from the traffic. So this is what we try to address. And we do that by developing a very compact, emission-free transport solution for last mile. And last mile means transport between 1 or 3 kilometers, somewhere like that, where the public transport is not so suitable. So this is what we do. And more concretely, we are like a taxi company, and we call us pod taxis, because we use taxi pods like this. It's a 3-wheeled moped, actually. So it's a very compact type of vehicle, which is electric, emission-free, super lean. It uses about 15% of the energy compared to a modern diesel Volvo V70 car. So we can move around people in the city much more efficient because, another question, do you know how many people are in the cars in Stockholm City on average? Any guesses? 1.2 is very close. 1.3 people in the cars on average. So it's not so smart to have such cars in the city. And we try to optimize this in another way then. So we do the taxi, and because of the emission-free part and very resource lean, we are also having this environmental certification. It's the strongest one you can have in Sweden. So we're the only taxi company that has this. But we're also moving now into deliveries, trying to utilize our fleet much more, and also combining driving people and also parcels of different kinds. And the third leg we have is advertising. We put on digital signs or screens on top of the vehicle, and we can have commercials going on there. And we also make the whole of the vehicle striped. So we have had ears on them and spook them out in very different ways. And the companies love this because it's a new way of being visible in the cities. So that has been successful so far. So it's kind of hard to see here, but we are operating in a central zone in the cities. So we're not going to the airport. It's too far for our small vehicles. They're made for inner city speed, like 50 kilometers an hour. And so far, we've been operating about 3 years in Stockholm. And we made 250,000 trips and have 100,000 apps downloaded so far, and collected a lot of data. So looking more at the technology, I should have done more here since there's so many technology-interested people. But we have the vehicle, of course. It's light electrical vehicles. This one is from Clean Motion. It's a Swedish startup, you could call it. It's a Swedish company in Lerum, which has developed this. And it's super lean. It's about 300 kilos. It takes 2 passengers. So we fulfill the need in Stockholm. And you can drive for about 30 to 50 kilometers before needing to recharge, depending on how you drive and so on. So this is our first generation vehicle, but there is a lot of development going on. So there will be more vehicles in this class coming, and we're looking forward to that. It's a bit bumpy. You have tried this, the ones who have tried it has felt that. So things are developing there. we will be fully connected. By that I mean that we are getting data from the vehicles and from the drivers and everything, and we take it up to our backend system, where we also connect with the customers. We have an app, of course, where you can order our taxi and deliveries and so on. So we connect that and have a smart backend system optimizing all of this. And that is also why we try to digitalize all our operations. We do many things differently from other operators. We have our own employees, for one thing. Other companies usually build on taxi drivers working when they want to. We have taxi drivers employed with union agreements. We try to have the fair working conditions. And that makes it possible for us to schedule when we are out driving taxi, and we can be more optimized. But trying to digitalize all of this so it becomes more efficient. That is what we try to do. We have a software system then that is trying to, with all this optimization, it's kind of really suitable for machine learning, and we are just taking steps in that direction, and it's very exciting to see how far you can go. Okay, so what we actually try to achieve here is something we call mini mobility, and that is to say that it's something between regular mobility, which are cars, and micro mobility, that are things you might have stumbled over literally in the cities, which are these electrical scooters and bikes and so on. So I'll walk you through this and hope to make it obvious that mini mobility is something that suits cities. The regular cars today, they are made for driving 160 miles an hour or kilometers an hour, and take 5 people and a lot of baggage and so on. So in the city, you have a city limit of 50 kilometers an hour, so it's just unnecessary. When it comes to space, you can fit 3 taxi pods on the same surface. So should we replace a lot of cars in the cities with taxi pods or pods, you would save a lot of space in one move. Micromobility even more, of course. When it comes to emissions, we have very low emissions here. It might be surprising that the emissions are really high on the micromobility or the electrical scooters, but that is worst case. They have had problems with the vehicles just last for 6 to 8 weeks and being thrown into the river, and they have to go pick them up to charge and so on. But they are working this out, so this has potential to go down quite a bit. So that is a good thing. When it comes to safety, when you go in a car, you're very safe. If you bump into a car or crash with a car from outside, you're not so safe. It will be a horrible accident usually. In a pod that it weighs 300 kilos instead of almost 2 tons, it's a different thing. It's more safe, at least, to be on the outside. Not just as safe on the inside. You have less protection around you, but still quite safe in those speeds. When it comes to micromobility, it's not so safe to be on it without helmet, at least, which is a normal way of operations today. But it's more okay to crash with, although there are many accidents. So I would say it's a little bit worse than this anyway. So when it comes to speed, the mini mobility is having sufficient speed. Its average speed in the city is about 15 kilometers an hour due to traffic lights and stops and congestion and everything. So you don't need to have a really fast car. It's sufficient with top speed of 50 kilometers an hour. So we think we can do the same job that's this guy most of the time, but for very reduced resources, and we can have lower costs. So right now, there are a lot of things happening in this business area. There's a lot of money and effort going into this with Uber and Lyft and many other companies. Also on this part, micromobility, a lot of money going there. Not so much money going here, but we think that will change when people understand this much better. And we're early on this part. Yes. One thing is competition, basically, because we have there's a lot of supply, many players, and it's increasing. And there's also lots of the players are kind of a bit shady. They avoid taxes in different ways and so on, so they can have a lower cost. So that is also problematic to have the right price. And then we are using an early stage vehicle so far. We are still looking for Lovely and the other car developers to come up with a really perfect mini mobility vehicle. Then I think it will be really different. So those are I would say are the really main parts. Good question. Thank you. Yes?
I know you only operate in Stockholm, is it?
Yes, in this mode, yeah.
Do you think it would suit the Rome of Finance?
Definitely, yes, for sure. This is actually, it's almost a bit hard to make it work here. We have developed doors and heating systems ourselves to make it work on the winter time. But I think it's really nice in summertime when you go with the doors open and so on. Yeah. So we try to address this. Yes, any more questions, by the way? Sorry. Yes. So the just in Stockholm, it's every day in Stockholm, it's about 1 million trips being made that are less than 5 kilometers. So we could just have a percentage of that. How should I put it? I mean, what we try to do is to get rid of the fossil cars in the cities. We try to shift them out, especially the larger cars, and going to transport as a service rather than owning your car. So I would say 30% of all those trips being made in the cities should be done with this type of vehicle. Then it doesn't have to be us doing all of them, but that is at least what we think it should be. Thanks. Good question. Any more so far? Yeah. Today you pay per ride, and we have a bit different model than a regular taxi, for instance. We have no starting fee. You just pay per kilometer, per meter that you go. So it's 4 öre per meter, our model right now. So if you go very short distance, it's very, very good price. And if you go a long way, like 8 kilometers, it's more cheaper with a taxi, basically. So we try to target about 2 kilometers. We start at 7 and at 11 in weekdays. And Friday and Saturday nights we go on to 2 or 3 o'clock, and then it's when it's most popular, actually, around the bar strip. Yeah. So, but the business price model is something we can change, of course. But right now we pay per ride, and we're looking into. We have some business customers that have a subscription. Actually, we shuttle them, and then it's another model. So we experiment with that. Yeah. How much time do I have left? Enough? Yeah. Okay. So were there any more questions so far? No? So we try to make a big impact. We have got calculated, this is not my calculation, but 64 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalents could be saved every year if we introduce this type of mobility in the cities around the world. And it's not all of the cars that are replaced by then. It's a percentage, and there are about 2,200 cities like Stockholm around the globe, bigger or that is a sizable market. 2,200 more than Stockholm. So we can do a lot of things if we can get this to fly. And this, I want to give a tip to all of you, that there is an organization called Mission Innovation. They calculated this for us. They do that, calculating the environmental impact in order to help startups, basically, or companies, to show their impact, so you can get more investors or media and so on. So that is a tip. Okay, so I think what I told Janne here about the challenge that we have we try to meet them by being like a professional startup. Being a startup, most of you here probably know how it is. And I think one key thing that the startup does is to try to explore and find the recipe for success. So it's a lot about maximizing learning rather than profit. That you can go on with for some time, but not forever. But maximizing learning. And therefore, I also wanted to go into that tip that you have mentioned and Janne mentioned, this lean way of, iterative way of developing things, being innovative and being very agile. And we use a method called lean startup. So that's my second tip, if you want to have a framework or something to lean on and working on that. So we do that too. We do a lot of piloting and small testing and so on, basically. Are there any questions after that? No? Thank you.